Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We are going to unpack something truly fascinating today. We're looking at a legendary ancient text, and we're going to decode the mind-bending cosmic journey of a bodhisattva. This is all laid out in the Daji Du Lun, which is this monumental commentary traditionally attributed to the great Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna. If you've ever wondered what it actually takes to become a fully enlightened being in Mahayana Buddhist theology, well, you are in the exact right place. We are going to map out the unimaginable timelines, the bizarre physical transformations, and the absolutely extreme sacrifices required for this kind of cosmic evolution. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap through this dense, fascinating theology. 1. The Bodhisattva Enigma. 2. Defining the Great Mind. 3. The Immeasurable Timeline. 4. Marks of a Buddha. 5. The Ultimate Sacrifices. And finally, 6. A Universe of Buddhas. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. The Bodhisattva Enigma.
So we begin with this really curious textual mystery right at the start of the source material. The text is trying to resolve what looks like a glaring contradiction. The exact question it asks is, why are arhats listed before bodhisattvas in the sutras? Now, in Mahayana Buddhism, bodhisattvas are the ultimate heroes, right? They're the ones who delay their own final nirvana to stick around and save everyone else. Arhats, on the flip side, are totally focused on their own personal liberation. So, if the bodhisattva is the supreme ideal, why do the sacred texts frequently list the arhats first? It kind of seems like a massive demotion, doesn't it?
What's really interesting about this slide is how the text actually defends this. It splits the Buddhist teachings into two categories, the revealed and the secret. In the revealed, everyday teachings, arhats get top billing because, well, they've visibly and obviously extinguished all their flaws. I mean, they look like perfect saints. But in the secret, deeper teachings, bodhisattvas are actually vastly more powerful. The catch? They intentionally disguise themselves. They mingle right in the gritty desires and the five senses of the human world so they can actively guide others. The text basically argues that if they were placed above arhats openly, ordinary people and even heavenly beings would be totally confused and suspicious of these seemingly worldly folks. Their perfection is literally hidden by their profound compassion.
All right, moving on to Section 2, Defining the Great Mind.
Before we really get into their journey, we need to understand the fundamental vocabulary the text uses for these disguised heroes. Let's break down the word bodhisattva exactly how the source does. Bodhi refers to the Buddha way, or ultimate wisdom. Sattva can just mean a living being, but actually the text takes it further and defines it as a great mind. And we're not just talking about a fleeting good intention here. The text explicitly states that a bodhisattva's mind is unbreakable. It says their resolve to achieve the Buddha way is as physically immovable and indestructible as a towering diamond mountain. Think about that. A mountain made of diamond. It's completely immovable.
To really hammer this point home, the source uses a super powerful metaphor. It compares the smaller vehicle, the Sravaka path, which is focused on individual salvation, to water pooled in a single cow's footprint. It's incredibly narrow, tiny really. But in stark contrast, it compares the Mahayana vehicle, the path of the Bodhisattva, to the ocean. The ocean is vast, it's boundless, and it inherently receives all streams and all living beings. It's just a matter of sheer, overwhelming capacity.
Section 3. The Immeasurable Timeline. So, building a mind as vast as an ocean and as hard as a diamond mountain? Yeah, that doesn't happen overnight. The scale of Buddhist cosmology required to forge this kind of intent is absolutely staggering. The text introduces this number, the Asamkhya. But listen, this isn't a normal number. The text defines an Asamkhya as an immeasurable kalpa. To put that into perspective, it's a duration of time so exceptionally vast that even if you took the most brilliant mathematicians in all the heavenly and human realms, they would completely exhaust their ability to calculate it and probably just give up. And a bodhisattva doesn't just endure one of these, they have to endure three. 3 of them!
Let's move to the next slide and see how this builds. Because across this insane timeline, we can actually trace the psychological evolution of the bodhisattva's confidence. During that very first immeasurable eon, studying under the Ratnasikan Buddha, the bodhisattva's realization is entirely internal. They're actually still unsure if they will achieve Buddhahood. Fast forward an entire immeasurable eon to the second Asamkhya, under the Dipankara Buddha. Here, they finally achieve complete mental certainty, but they still don't speak it out loud. Finally, after a third unimaginable eon under the Vipassana Buddha, they reach this state of vocal, absolutely fearless declaration. They can finally look at the universe and say out loud, I will become a Buddha.
Section 4, Marks of a Buddha.
Now, surviving this exhausting timeline isn't just a matter of waiting around. The profound accumulation of merit,
actually fundamentally alters the being's biology. Once those 3 eons are finally wrapped up, the Bodhisattva begins generating the karma for the 32 physical marks of a great man. And these are some exquisite, highly specific anomalies. The text highlights things like golden skin so radiant it outshines the gold of heavenly realms. They develop these intricate 1,000-spoked wheels naturally imprinted right on the soles of their feet. They have exactly 40 perfectly aligned, brilliantly white teeth, which, let's be honest, is quite the dental upgrade. Their voice resonates deep like a Brahma heaven drum, and their fingers and toes feature this delicate net-like webbing.
But the crucial point is this. The text vehemently argues these marks are not just biological traits, and they aren't the work of some heavenly craftsman either. They are the direct physical manifestation of highly concentrated conscious intention. It takes exactly 100 distinct, massive acts of merit driven by profound thought to forge just one of these 32 physical marks. It is quite literally mind-creating matter.
Which leads us to Section 5, the ultimate sacrifices.
So, how exactly does a bodhisattva earn these 100-fold merits? What actions are so unbelievably powerful they can rewrite biology? Well, they have to perfect 6 specific practices, known as the paramitas. They are giving, morality, patience, energy, meditation, and wisdom. Now, while all of these are totally necessary, the text gives us a truly terrifying and beautiful example of the extreme edge of that very first perfection, giving.
To illustrate the absolute limits of giving, the text recounts this parable of King Sibi, who was a past incarnation of the Buddha. In the story, this terrified little dove flies right into the king's armpit, fleeing from a very hungry hawk. The king, who has taken a strict vow to protect all living things, flat out refuses to hand the dove over. When the hawk demands fresh meat of equal weight as a replacement, King Sibi drops this profound realization. He says, "This body's flesh is constantly subject to old age, disease, and death. Since he needs it, I must give it."
What happens next is this wildly dramatic sequence that really tests the king's diamond mind. The king orders a scale to be brought out, and he actually slices the flesh from his own thigh to weigh against the bird. But then, a miracle occurs. The dove starts growing heavier and heavier. No matter how much flesh the king cuts from his thighs, his chest, his arms, it's just not enough. Bleeding in agonizing pain, but completely refusing to break his vow, King Sibi finally just hauls his entire mutilated body onto the scale, sacrificing himself completely to save one single bird. The text then reveals the hawk was actually the god Indra in disguise, testing the bodhisattva. And because his resolve literally never wavered and his mind remained joyful in giving, his body was instantly restored. I mean, wow. That is the magnitude of merit required to forge just a fraction of a Buddha.
And finally, Section 6. A universe of Buddhas.
So, after detailing this incredibly difficult, multi-eon process, the text addresses a highly logical objection from opposing scholars. They ask a very grounded, practical question. If Mahayana theology claims there are bodhisattvas completing this journey and becoming Buddhas everywhere across the vast universe, well, why is our world so full of suffering? Why is it so incredibly hard to actually meet a Buddha? If they're everywhere, why don't we see them?
And this brilliantly illustrates the text's poetic and theological resolution to that exact problem. The author introduces the concept of karmic blindness. It argues that the issue isn't an absence of Buddhas, it's a defect in our own perception. The text uses this striking metaphor. It's like a blind person standing in the bright midday sun. The sun is blazing right there, offering all this light and warmth, but because of the person's condition, they literally cannot perceive it. In the exact same way, ordinary beings who are weighed down by immense, profound karmic burdens simply do not possess the spiritual merit required to see the enlightened beings that might be standing right in front of them.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, whether you view the Daji Du Lun as literal cosmic history or a really profound psychological metaphor, it leaves us with an incredibly powerful concept. It asks us to consider the limits of our own perception. Because if a diamond-hard resolve and absolute eons of merit are required to perceive ultimate truth, it leaves us with this huge question. What unseen forces, opportunities, or profound truths might we be karmically blind to in our own daily lives right now, simply because we haven't cultivated the capacity to see them? Definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.